Today, we're talking about three crucial metrics that you must examine when we're talking about the acquisition of a small business. And these are going to be three things that we have to look at about the number one most important aspect of any small business. And we're not talking about sales margins or numbers of any kind. Stay tuned. If you intend to buy a business one day, you're going to want to remember these three things.
I'm David C. Barnett, and you're tuned in to Small Business and Deal Making, the podcast, YouTube channel, and blog where I talk about buying, selling, financing, and managing small and medium-sized businesses while controlling risk. So if you're looking to take control of your future through buying a business one day, or if you already own a business and you're looking to grow or exit, you've come to the right place. I talk about interesting things, I talk to interesting people, and I answer your questions every week right here. So be sure to hit like and be sure to hit subscribe, and let's get to it. Are you thinking of growing your business or beginning a journey into entrepreneurship? Take a shortcut to success by buying an existing and profitable business the right way. Visit businessbuyeradvantage.com and learn more about my online training, group coaching, and consulting services designed to help you win.
All right. So we're talking about three crucial metrics for business buyers to look at when looking at a business. And I said in the intro that they're all about one thing. And that was the most important thing about any small business. And what it is the owner. So when you're looking at a small business, the owner controls everything. The owner often has built the business. The owner often has key relationships that they're in charge of. And so when we're looking at the small business, we need to focus a little bit of our attention on the owner as an individual and understanding exactly what it is that they're doing in the business. So I've got three crucial metrics. So the very first one is the hours worked each week by the seller and their job description of what they're doing. And so oftentimes, if there's a problem here, there can be some deception. And so one of the big reasons why I'm going to bring up these three crucial things is because by examining them, they will often lead to clues or bits of data that can lead to other further problems in your due diligence. And some of this stuff isn't, you're not going to be able to really get into until due diligence. But the first one is the actual number of hours worked by the owner and what they are doing, what their job description is. Why is this important? Well, I have had many cases in the past where we've looked at businesses, and when we're doing a normalization of the business's financial performance, we often have to normalize the owner's salary because owners can pay themselves whatever they want, basically, if the company can afford it. And we always want to normalize it to a fair market value for what the owner's doing. And in doing so, we then have to say, well, does the owner actually do something that is commensurate with what a fair market wage person would be doing? And sometimes it's not at all in line. So sometimes owners are working very little in the business because they've got it highly systematized with great employees. And this is, the sort of the person of to whom people envy, right? Because like they've got a lot of free time, they've got everything in place. The business really takes care of itself to a great deal, to a great extent, and they're supervising and observing and just kind of keeping an eye on things. At the other extreme, when we start to look at what the owner is doing, we realize, oh, you can't replace all that work with one person being paid a fair market wage. We would need two people or maybe a third person. Like we could require multiple people to come in and actually do what the owner's doing, which completely changes the normalization. Which not only are we adjusting the owner's salary to a fair market wage in our normalization, but we then have to add other people, which is going to take a chunk right out of the discretionary cash flow if we start adding a second person or like a part-time administrative person or whatever needs to be done to fill the gap. So that's the very first thing, is understanding exactly what the owner is doing, how much time they spend working on the business. And the reason why I say you may not be able to fully appreciate this until you get into due diligence is most owners are not going to tell you they work 80 or 90 hours a week. Most people are going to say, I'm here every day. I start early. If I have to answer a call at night, I will. But it's when you start to get into due diligence, you can start to maybe get access to stuff that will leave indications or clues as to just what kind of hours are being put into the business, right? So you might end up with access to like online voice over IP systems that indicate when calls are coming in. You can see somebody's answering the phone up until 9 o'clock at night, and guess what? It's the owner. And someone's also answering it at 6:30 in the morning. Guess what? It's the owner, right? You know what I'm saying? So you want to have this very good idea of what the owner's doing. Crucial metric number two, which may surprise a lot of people, you want to know what the owner's spouse does. Yep, you want to ask. And the ideal answer is that the owner's spouse is a stay-at-home parent. That because what that means is the family is ultimately being supported by this business, which means that the cash flow that's being represented to you likely, while it may have errors, is likely a good cash flow that can support a family. What causes me a little bit of concern sometimes is when I hear spouses jobs that are like high income roles, right? Because you can have a business and have really poor cash flow and really poor operating metrics if you're married to like a doctor, right? Because their income can support the household. And that means that you don't need to deliver on the execution of the business quite as well. And other things like for Americans in the audience, like things like health insurance benefits, right? So businesses that where the spouse of the owner has great health insurance coverage, it means that the owner of the business doesn't have to have their own health insurance coverage. And for businesses that are marginal or struggling, what that just means is that the owner will take less money out for themselves. And you want to be careful of that because there's a big difference between what is sort of reported as the profitability of the business and what might be represented as far as discretionary cash flow. They might want to add back different things that they say are not really related to the operation of the business. And sometimes, there's some sketchiness as to those add backs. And when I hear that the person selling the business has basically this household support subsidy in the form of a high income spouse, then it means that the business could have survived through a lean time where it wasn't really truly profitable because the demand on the business was not there to actually produce a cash flow for the owner to support a family and support their lifestyle. So this is the second key metric: is what does the spouse do? um, number three Number three is to examine the concentrations on both sides. So we often hear about customer concentration. You know, are and here's the way that I will often ask the question. I will say, what percentage of revenue or what percentage of sales is coming from the company's top 5 customers? And it's very different than saying, do you have a few big customers? But if you specifically say what percentage of revenue comes from the top 5 customers, if you're told a figure under like 25%, well, that's very different than if you're told 60%, right? And if it is a large percentage, like 60%, then you want to dive even further into that. And you want to say, what percentage exactly do each of these top 5 represent? And then you need to look at it over time. Because I'll tell you, the scariest cash flow I ever saw was a business that usually the top 5 customers each year represented over half the income, but those top 5 were never the same. And so, but sometimes they would reoccur. So top 5 customer of 2024 might have also been the top one of the top 5 customers in 2019, right? But they weren't consistently in the top 5 because it was a highly project driven sort of business, where they had a good reputation. They were known by people in the industry, but really each year had to be constructed from scratch by seeking out these big projects from the people in their client pool. But that top 5 kept changing. On the other side is the suppliers. So is there a concentration issue with respect to suppliers? And when it comes to suppliers, you also want to ask yourself, are there any sort of obvious replacements? So if you're going to buy a bakery and they're buying all of their flour from one supplier, I wouldn't really be that concerned because there's a lot of other places you can buy flour, right? But if you are going to be a dealership for a certain brand of, power sports equipment, for example, Kawasaki motorcycles, well, then the supplier is really critical. And in fact, in that particular scenario, Kawasaki probably has an input onto who can buy the business, right? Because they have to agree to continue that license dealership agreement. You also want to have an understanding of what role the owner is playing in these concentrated relationships. So, is the owner the salesman in the business, for example? Now, there could be salespeople in the business, but the reason why it's different with respect to concentration is oftentimes when a customer knows they are a top customer of a company, they want to escalate their relationship, right? They don't necessarily always want to deal with Joe the salesman. They also want to talk with the owner too. And so you need to determine, is that the case? Even if there are salespeople in the organization, does the owner actually own the relationships in these top concentration accounts? Because again, this can open the door to possibly there being additional risk in the transition to a new owner. So those are the top three crucial metrics I think that you should be looking at when you're buying a small business in examining what I think is one of the most important things in a small business when examining the seller to really make sure that whatever it is that they are doing, that you are going to be able to cover that off in one way or another when you become the new owner, whether it's through your own personal work in the business or through some other kind of plan to bring other people onto the team or what have you. Yeah. If you are going to be buying a business, I highly recommend that you head over to businessbuyeradvantage.com. It's where you can learn all about our services that we offer to buyers. We've got the online training program, which you can do at home in your own time. We've got the group coaching program where you can meet up with me and all the other people that are on a mission to buy a business. We meet 3 times a month. All the details are over there at businessbuyeradvantage.com. Look for the group coaching program. And down at the bottom of that website, you can learn about our buyer insight analyses, where people hire us to actually look at businesses that they're considering to make an offer on. And we will actually do some research, show you what we think the business is worth, and formulate some offers for you that you can go ahead and make on those small businesses. And with that, I'll say thank you very much. And we will see you next time. Cheers.
So, how can you learn more about buying, selling, financing, and managing small and medium-sized businesses? Easy. Go over to my blog site, davidcbarnett.com, where you can learn more about me and how I work with my clients. You can learn more about my books and courses that I've prepared for you. You can find out how to subscribe to my email list, the YouTube playlists, and more. There's literally hundreds of hours of content there, all for free, and I'd love for you to be my guest. Special thanks go to Mark Willis at Lake Growth Financial, today's video sponsor. Mark helps people better manage their personal and business finances through the Bank on Yourself insurance strategy. This is something I've done personally and I've seen others use it successfully for years. Go to newbankingsolution.com to find all the interviews I've done with Mark and learn more about the advantages of these programs. While there, sign up for a free consultation to learn what this solution might look like for you.